Morning. I trust that you are well. It is another Monday. We got through last week and hope you had a really nice Good Friday. And I know a lot of you have a tremendous Good Friday. Okay, so nobody does anything on Good Friday. So some of y'all had to.
Next Friday
It's
is
next
Good
Friday.
Friday. Yeah,
So,
yesterday was
oh, it's
Palm
Palm
Sunday.
Sunday. I get
Yes.
confused.
Good morning, everyone.
I get confused, obviously. Well, I trust that everyone's planning to have a great week. For a lot of you, it's going to be a short week because you do have Good Friday off this Friday, right? It's this
Yes,
Friday, right?
this Friday.
Okay, so some of you all have a short week and maybe have little vacations planned. You got out of town, you got
Spring
about,
break.
you have spring break going on. Yeah, you know what? That sounds spring break sounds great everywhere else except Florida because a lot of people come here and act stupid and kill themselves jumping off balconies. So,
Doing silly stuff.
and you know what? And the beaches that are normally calm and nice are filled with drunk 23-year-olds.
Yeah.
So spring break isn't something that we in front of go woohoo great spring break.
We don't go to the beach on spring
Thank you
break.
for your money. Now go home. Yeah, so it's like that. All right. Our subject material this morning is something that hit here in this house a couple years ago and are affecting some of the people that we know who are about our age. Um, we stand and we hear the vows, and one of the vows that's in most ceremonies, even in modern day ceremonies, if you don't go with the whole obey stuff, we have a lot of impact. We have a lot of reaction to the submissive wife thing. Um, we didn't attach it to the vows where where we have to say obey because y'all get crazy about that.
Yeah.
But we will.
But that goes both ways. I mean, they're saying love, honor, and obey to not just the wife, but to the spouse, to the husband as well. So,
But part of those vows, even in modern day vows, is in sickness and in health. And I'll tell you what, through personal experience, I can tell you not much more puts pressure on a relationship or on a marriage than when one of the spouses is ill. I mean, really ill.
like close to death ill, or have a chronic illness that continues. It can put a lot of pressure on a relationship. Period. Marriage, friendship. A lot of times you find out who your true friends are when
Boy, do
you
you?
are really,
That is
really
true.
sick. So it tests all relationships, even your job. It tests your job. You find out on your job, how sincere they are about whether they really care for you when you're working them 40, 50 hours a week, they good with you. But when your spouse is in the hospital and you can't come to work for 6 to 8 weeks, how much do they like you then?
How much do you mean to the organization? Because those kind of things and Debbie's right, they put stress on I mean, every relationship you have, a chronic illness or a sick unto death sort of illness will put some stress on what we're talking about. On all of relationships. 2014, I had triple bypass surgery. I was in the hospital for 18 days. 18 days, and that was early in January, and didn't go back to work until March, right? Something like that.
Mid March or
Mid
so.
March. I was sick, y'all. I was sick. I have a 7.5 scar on my chest to prove it. I was sick. And I will say that what I learned in that is who my friends were, and I learned without a shadow of a doubt, and I've said this before, I know that my wife and my son love me more than I could have even imagined because of how they protected me and took care of me through the illness and through the recovery. And I'll tell you what, triple bypass recovery is worse, almost worse than the illness. I'm telling you, except the illness will kill you. The
The
recovery,
surgery is
the
serious.
surgery, like the worst butt whipping you've ever taken in your life. So it takes a long time to recover, both physically and mentally. And my family was there for me. I also had some friends that showed up at some weird times.
Yes. During times when I particularly was protecting him, from people coming in to see him
Tubes in my nose and
in such a serious manner. Some of his friends were they were protective too, that they wanted to see him. They were determined, and they did.
When I was in ICO and I was in a coma for 3 days, I'll tell you what, somehow they got in. I don't know how. But anyway, so that kind of pressure on a relationship is huge. And when we say in sickness and in health, I don't think a lot of people realize what that can turn into. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to play a small clip, and we'll talk about that when we get back. So again, thank you so much for tuning in this morning. Yay, and write in the comments if this has happened to you, if you've been in a similar situation. We'll be back right after these messages.
I'm not able to see.
Hey, can you see on this? All right, welcome back. We appreciate you being here this morning. In sickness and in health, this isn't just something that we came up for ourselves. We actually have some people that we know who are going through a chronic illness, and the pressure that it puts on the relationship, financially, emotionally, mentally, and this is one of the things that you have to. That I don't think people should think about and just all the time, but no,
it will happen.
It happens.
Because we are human, and as you get older, your body does things. It's going to react to the way that you are taking care of it, the way that you're not taking care of it. So and because of the heart. Congestive heart failure runs in Willie's family. We consider that he is a miracle walking around, because 3 generations of his family at the age that he was at passed away at that point.
My grandmother passed away like at 51. My mom passed away at 53. So if I can just get out my 50s, woohoo! Yes! Yes, baby. Looking forward to that. So it's a big thing when you're going through that kind of thing. And the sad part is that a lot of times marriages don't make it through illnesses. I have actually, after I got out of the hospital and I went back to some meetings, I actually talked to somebody that was a good friend of mine who had gone through the very same thing, and his marriage didn't survive. I was like, "Are you serious?" I just can't. I mean, because my experience was so different. As you know, I felt closer to my family than ever, and his wife left him. It was and he wasn't angry. I think he said it just became so much because when you have congestive heart failure and when you and all those things happen, it's a lot. It really is.
It's very frightening and stressful. And I'm not going to say she did the right thing, but I can understand.
It's like,
I definitely can understand
like Chris Rock.
if you are if you are and then I'm not saying she's weak, but if your marriage isn't on a firm foundation already, and you kind of know who you are in Christ, and you're pretty strong already. And I'm not saying that I'm superwoman or anything like that, because it took me through some hell. I'm gonna be honest. And I feel sometimes that I'm still recovering from the pressure and the stress that it put on me and my son. We went through something. Nobody knows the things that he and I went through that morning, early that morning, when we had to rush him to the hospital.
When they thought I was going to die.
And
my heart stopped.
his heart stopped, and he died in the emergency room.
Paddles. Oh, no.
He died literally in the emergency room, and me and my son are in what they call the quiet room, waiting. Because you have seen on television shows, or you may have lived it, when you're in that quiet room and the news, when they come out and they say we weren't able to, survive them, it's quite scary. I mean, I was in a hot mess that morning, and I can understand why the average person would run.
Yeah, it was it was quite an ordeal. And at some point on YouTube, maybe I put up the my story on my childhood. Maybe I'll put up the story on that adventure for me through there. And maybe Debbie will put up her story, her side of that adventure, because I think it's important that people understand that people do go through this all the time. I mean, when you guys were down in the waiting room, there were other families going through exactly the same stuff, exactly the same things. Now, some of them with good outcomes, like me, and some of them without good outcomes.
We left a lot of families there after their surgery, and their loved ones were not waking up. They were still, per se, alive, but they hadn't woke up after the surgery. And after so many days, the doctors want to kind of give up when they don't wake up after so many hours.
Yeah, I think they woke me up and then they walked me around.
Yes.
It was awful. All right, Mr. Lawson, get up. I'm like, what? No, now you got to go run a mile. What? No. It was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. Yeah. So there are situations where you have to understand that there is going to be that kind of pressure. Now it's pretty much at the top of the pressure spectrum for a relationship, even more so than a bunch of other stuff. And it always goes back to what I always say: which is more important, the relationship or the thing you're going through? Mm-hmm. Or are you going to actually live up to what you said you were going to in your vows? This is sickness. When everybody's healthy and feeling good and losing weight and looking all slim like we did when we were in 20s, going to the beach, actually taking pictures of ourselves in our swimsuits, it's all good, right? But as time wears on and gravity hits, are you going to be as good? Are you going to be as supportive? A lot of men have to understand. A lot of men in this culture deal with women who have breast cancer, who get breast cancer. Now we had a scare. I don't know, 10 years ago, something like that.
About 7 years ago.
Yeah. So, what are you going to do? I've talked to men all the time that who've had wives who've had double mastectomy, so they're not physically the same person that they married. Physically. how much does that mean to you? Now you have to understand also that that your wife or your girlfriend or whatever is going through a whole bunch of stuff when that happens too. Are you going to be that support? Are you going to be that supportive guy that you said in front of all those people that you were going to be?
In sickness and
health. In sickness and in health. When your physical body looks different, when your physical body doesn't operate like it used to, when time comes a knocking, and disease comes to stay for a while, people get cancer, again, congestive heart failure, all sorts of pressures that come. And the pressure, like we have some friends whose husband is in the hospital in another city. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was bad enough that I was in the hospital down the street, not far from here.
But when you are miles and miles away from your spouse, and you've got to continue to go on, like, regular life, that it's tough. So I was studying over this last night, and I was wondering about, when is it okay to divorce somebody because of sickness? Is it okay? Like you were saying about your friend when he was going through it, his wife left him. Do you have the right to do that? After you've committed yourself legally and verbally, saying that you would be there in sickness and in health, and then I have heard of some people, they still support their spouse, but they can't live with them. They just leave, and they, check on them every now and then and stuff, but they can't handle the pressure of just being in the moment. I don't think you can. When you have committed yourself to saying that you would be there for that person, because in Willie's instance, he has no brothers and sisters or anybody else that can.
It's just them. That's all I got.
Can come and take care of him. If I should leave, I think he has some serious friends that would stand by him.
I do have some good friends,
but family members, I mean, you can't just leave. That is heartless, I feel, to leave somebody when they have nobody and they're sick. They need help. So, marriage ain't no easy game.
And I know people will say, well, when you get sick like that, when you have heart disease, you put yourself in that situation. And that may or may not be true. But it doesn't negate the fact that when you're sick that way, you're helpless. Mm-hmm. Helpless. When you can't get up out of a chair by yourself, when they send you home with adult diapers because you're still wetting yourself as a 54-year-old person, you are helpless. When you can't clean your own wound, it was tough because it really puts you in the place of the child, because you are extremely helpless. And I know the pressure of that I understand that I don't know, but I understand that the pressure of that must be huge. And especially when the man is sick, because the man has been, is not supposed to be the weak one. I know it's 2018, but the man is not supposed to be the weak one. We're supposed to be the stupid ones that when we get an arm chopped off in the backyard, we say, it's nothing.
Put some dirt on it.
But rub some dirt on it. Yeah. But when you're still peeing on yourself, life changes. Life changes. So are we going to be, are we okay with those situations? Are we built for them? Now, I think all this goes back to what Deb and I talked about a while ago. It all goes back to foundation stuff. Mm-hmm. How do you start this thing? How are you building this thing? Because and Deb mentioned a few minutes ago, if the foundation isn't strong, then when you put real pressure on it, it's going to crumble.
Crack.
It's going to crumble. So that's why it's so important that you look at the other 10 videos that we've done so far, and look at the foundational structure of your relationships, because that's going to hold you up and hold you through the times, quite frankly, that suck, that are horrible.
Another thing, and we haven't had to deal with this, but I thought about that last night about um, it. Is it different if it's mental illness rather than physical illness? As you get older, some people have Alzheimer's. Um, they may go through depression. That's an illness that I have dealt with. Being the depression part, and quite frankly, it sometimes Willie doesn't know what to do. You it's not a physical thing, so you can't say here's an aspirin or here's this and all like that, but you're just emotionally not there. And when somebody is strong and they're giving out orders like I do sometimes, and and you're depending on them to make some decisions to help with this, to help with that, and they are just not there.
And that's part of these the thing that people call emotional abandonment sometimes, because but again, if people are ill or people are fighting illness, you said, what, and we said early when we started this whole thing, we're going to say some things that people aren't going to necessarily agree with, and that's okay. You don't have to. Ain't no laws that you got to sign up for everything that we say. But my deal is that you said that you would, in sickness and in health. You didn't say, well, unless you go crazy, then I got to go. And if you lose your mind, I got to go.
When you can't get out the bed because you just don't feel like it.
Well, you know what? And so when you say that in sickness and health, then you have to mean that. And that's just, now again, that's just me. Y'all are going to. So some of y'all are, I know, women especially, are rolling your eyes and sucking your tongue. I know, but that's okay. That's okay. You can. Whatever. But my thought pattern is that you said that you were going to be there in sickness and health, and no matter what that health is or that sickness is, you're going to be there. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying, and we say all the time, we've said this 14,000 times, marriage is not for wimps. This can be tough. And it's tough because your heart is involved. And the closer you are to someone, the more difficult. It isn't the easier it is. It's the more difficult it is. Mm-hmm. The more it hurts, the more frustrating it is. And for guys especially, it's frustrating because sometimes, like Debbie said, sometimes you can't. There's nothing you can do. It isn't like, okay, well, we'll just open the window and we'll be our happy, cheerful self and we'll make you laugh.
No, and
all the tricks don't work.
And men want to fix everything.
Please let me fix it.
And sometimes it's not fixable by just doing one easy task.
Like wearing a bowl on your head. I'll just wear a bowl on my head. That always makes her laugh. And when the bowl on the head trick doesn't work, sometimes you're out of stuff that works.
Yes.
And it's hard, and it's frustrating. But again, we go. I keep going back to the very same thing. You said, in front of all those people, in sickness and in health. So are you a person who is going to do what you say? I know that's harsh, isn't it? That's tough. That's tough, but this is what we want from our children. This is what we want from the people that we work with. This is what we want from our friends. This is what we want from our spouse. This is what we want from everybody who we're in relationship with. We want them simply first to do what they say they were going to do. So when it's really hard, are you going to do what you say that you said you were going to do? Are you going to do what you said you were going to do? Tough stuff. She did exactly what she said she was going to do when I was sick. So on y'all. If y'all ain't got that, it's too bad.
And
sucks for you.
And I have to say that without additional friends helping me along, My church family was awesome. They, when Alex and I had to come home and do things and stuff, there was food prepared for us. I didn't have to worry about cooking or doing anything like that. They stood there. They were there. They came and looked after me when I couldn't look after myself, when I was just only focused on taking care of him. So it's important to have good relationships all around when the pressure comes to your marital relationship. It's